Welcome, one and all, to the Hammer Territory Podcast. It's not been that long since me and Steven talked with you. Good to be back with you. And hey, you know what? That's what we've been looking forward to with baseball now here. But unfortunately, this is going to be the first time this season so far that I don't know if you call this an emergency podcast, but we definitely have plenty to discuss with the first significant injury of the spring for the Braves. Before we get into the details, Steven, good talking with you. It feels like that we were talking about Shawn Murphy and Drake Baldwin just yesterday. It was literally 48 hours ago, but lo and behold, we had that conversation, and now we see another significant development in the Braves catching situation, which is becoming a big storyline this spring.
Yeah, an already interesting storyline got another wrinkle today. Yeah, we talked about it on Friday because it was such a topic. Drake Baldwin was looking so good. Shawn Murphy got off to a slow start in spring. And so the conversation got louder and louder. And then, of course, we wake up this morning and we find out that Shawn Murphy has a fractured rib. He took a 95-mile-an-hour fastball to the rib on Friday. I don't know if anybody noticed it. I didn't see anybody talking about it, Friday or Saturday. So maybe it just went unnoticed. But yeah, we got the news first thing this morning that he has a fractured rib. The timetable is 4 to 6 weeks is what they gave us. There's a lot in that. I'm very curious to see if that's 4 to 6 weeks before he starts doing baseball activities again, and then another 2 weeks to get ready to go for the season, or if that's 4 to 6 weeks for him ready to go to play games. So that part will be interesting. But yeah, we knew at some point the Braves weren't going to be injury free all year. And the first big one, we talked about it on Friday. They had gotten a lot of good health so far, and the first big one popped today.
Absolutely. And it becomes, it makes the story more interesting, I feel, when it comes to headlines and things like that, speculation, what could it mean and all that different stuff. But I'll start with the conversation with this, at least from my perspective. This really doesn't change much, in my opinion. And the reason that I say that is because of the fact that, okay, Shawn Murphy is going to be out for about a month to a month and a half. And let me actually get to this first point. I feel bad for Shawn Murphy. Like, it's pure bad luck. And I know that when someone struggles, especially when someone is paid to be a star like Shawn Murphy was when the Braves traded for it and extended him. And he had the great start in 2023. He had a good start to the second half, struggled in September, as we've discussed. He struggled since the start of 2004. Whatever timeline, people have been disappointed with the performance of Shawn Murphy. But it's just been pure bad luck. Sometimes you just chalk it up to that. No one could have planned for the oblique injury to start last year. No one could sit here and plan for a cracked rib from a fastball. But bad luck is just part of the equation. So for Shawn Murphy, the hope is that he gets healthy as soon as possible. But back to my original point about this doesn't change much. Drake Baldwin, I hope, has an unbelievable spring. I really hope he does. And I think it's most sensible. You could talk about the Braves going to add another catcher or maybe going with, someone that they already have in camp, what have you. Drake Baldwin should break camp with the Braves because the Braves start to the season is going to be especially tough going out west, playing some good teams. Hey, you want to go with your most talented options. But when Shawn Murphy is healthy, come the middle of April, in my opinion, even if Drake Baldwin is having a great start to the season, Shawn Murphy should still come back and be the everyday catcher. And again, I think that's what's going to happen regardless of what happens over the next 4 to 6 weeks, because we have seen it time and time again. Alex Anthopoulos is going to be loyal. He's going to stay committed to guys he believes in. I feel that he believes in Shawn Murphy. To me, this doesn't change much of anything at all. It's not like it's a serious long-term injury. It's not like something that's been lingering. It's something that Murphy will eventually get over. And in time, come middle to late April when he returns, more than likely, I think he just assumes the starting job and we'll be good to go. That being said, last time we had this conversation, I talked about the fact that what stops a lot of this conversation is Shawn Murphy having a great spring, a good start to the season, and him putting this conversation to rest, that he's clearly the Braves catcher. I now switch it over to Drake Baldwin. While it's sad to see Shawn Murphy have the bad luck that he's had, Drake Baldwin should take absolute advantage of this opportunity and make this conversation as loud as possible. But at the end of the day, I hope Drake Baldwin has an excellent spring, a great start to the season. Again, he should be the Braves' primary catcher. But at the end of the day, for me, this just does not change much of the conversation at all, other than it's going to be pretty exciting to see Drake Baldwin in a featured role.
Yeah, so it's interesting. So we talked about on Friday when we had this conversation that an injury actually clears up a lot, right? Like we weren't. Now it's pretty simple. Like Drake Baldwin's just going to get a chance to play. Now there's a chance they could go with one of the older guys, but I think Bowman. Somebody made this point today. It was either Justin or Bowman, but somebody made the good point that Baldwin is the only guy that can be optioned. You know, they have Chadwick Trump, they have Caselli, they have Sandy Leone, but those guys are on minor league deals or have no options. So if you go with one of those guys right out of the gate, then when Murphy comes back, none of those guys can be optioned, and therefore you just lose them. Now, losing those guys is not the biggest deal, but Baldwin can just be optioned. So it actually makes sense in this case to go with the young guy because when Murphy comes back, you can just option Baldwin and you're fine. So I think that's what they're going to do. I think Baldwin's going to be the guy. I think they're just going to give him a run and see how he does. I'll say this. It's very bad luck for Shawn Murphy. It's very bad. Listen, I saw people giving him shit today because he got hurt. Listen, anybody that wants to can stand in a batter's box, take a 95-mile-an-hour fastball to the ribs and tell me how you feel. And if you say you feel fine and you can go play a major league season, then you can then you can talk about Shawn Murphy getting hurt. But you can't, no one can, there's nothing you could do about getting a 95-mile-an-hour fastball to the ribs. That's not being injury prone. That's just having bad luck. Like I was annoyed by how much people were blaming Murphy today for being hit with a fastball. That doesn't make any sense to me. So that's my first point. My second point is this. If you strip out all the context of the conversation that we've been having about the catcher spot, this is actually a pretty low impact injury because Shawn Murphy, when everybody's healthy, Shawn Murphy is like the 7th or 8th most important hitter in the lineup. I mean, you have Acuna, Profar, Olson, Riley, Ozuna, Michael Harris, and Ozzy Albies. That's 7, right? So Shawn Murphy is like your 7th or 8th best hitter. And not only is Shawn Murphy like your 7th or 8th best hitter, but Shawn Murphy plays the one position where you do actually have a top prospect behind him. Like if this had been Matt Olson taking a fastball to the ribs and being out for 6 weeks, this is a whole different deal because the Braves don't have another guy to replace Matt Olson. The Braves actually have a pretty decent option to replace Shawn Murphy for 6 weeks. And by the way, it's only March 3rd. Like 6 weeks is like the middle of April. So it's only because all of this other stuff that we've been talking about for the last 2 weeks was this such a massive story today. Like in terms of actually like on field impact to the team, this is about as good an injury as the Braves could have had, having an elite prospect immediately behind Murphy who can step in for a little bit while he gets better. They don't have that at pretty much any other position. So it is funny the reaction online today versus how big of a deal it really is. As long as it's not lingering and as long as he is actually back in April, you know, this has very low impact on the team. Not only is Murphy not one of your bigger hitters, he doesn't have to be in this lineup, but you have an elite prospect behind him. So it sucks for Shawn. I agree with you. I was really hoping he would get off just to a hot start, shut everybody up for 6 months, and we don't have to talk about this anymore. And now if Drake Baldwin goes out and has a really good, if Drake Baldwin goes out and has a really good first few weeks in the majors, and then Shawn Murphy comes back and starts struggling again, it's going to get even louder than it ever was before. So it sucks for Murphy. It really does. I can't stand people who blame him for being hit with a fastball. It's just the lowest form of argument. I can't stand that. But in terms of the Braves, they actually do have a really good in-house option at that position, which they can't say at most positions. So this is actually not as detrimental as it probably was made out to be.
Oh, Todd Father. Remember the good old days when we would have the cards in the binders, but then they'd get all messed up and we're trying to sell online and it's just real clunky? They really actually weren't the good old days, were they?
No, they were definitely not, but now there's a better way. The Arena Club has been dominant with this. You get to trade your cards, you could sell them, but the best part for me is getting them graded. I love everything about that, this new age of getting cards graded. You could display them on your online showroom, your mobile device. It's the coolest thing in the world.
Whether you're buying, selling, trading, or displaying, Arena Club is the all-in-one trading card platform. You have to sign up for an account at arenaclub.com/foul. Just like Todd Father mentioned, there's a process that combines AI and human grading to get the job done. Right now, 20% off your first slab pack or card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/foul. Use code FOUL. That's arenaclub.com/foul. Code FOUL for 20% off your first purchase.
And I don't think that it should get lost in the conversation what the best long-term outcome from all of this is, right? Drake Baldwin doing well this spring, having a good start to the season. You certainly would love to see him have that type of impact on the Braves. If he struggles, I don't think it's going to be kind of like we saw with Nacho Alvarez last year. You know, when Nacho Alvarez came up, just did not offer really any sort of value. You saw how his upside could really be impacted if he's not going to be able to hit. With Drake Baldwin, not only do you expect for him to hit, but he's got a pretty good defensive reputation as a catcher. So if Drake Baldwin struggles, I don't necessarily think that that's going to do much for his overall prospect status. But the point that I'm getting at is this. Regardless of whatever you hope for or feel about the situation, nothing changes the fact the best long-term outcome of this situation is Drake Baldwin doing well with this opportunity that he's given, but Shawn Murphy coming back and returning to all-star form. Because nothing beats having the $55 to $60 million investment that you have in Murphy start to pay off because he's showing, once again, the player that was worth that extension. And then you also have Drake Baldwin either backing him up or becoming a potential trade option if Murphy returns to form. That is the best overall outcome for the Braves. So regardless of, again, it's stupid to blame Shawn Murphy in this situation. That's number one. But the second thing is that you're certainly cheering for Drake Baldwin to make the most of this opportunity. But again, I go back to the point, this is why I don't feel it changes much. It doesn't change the fact that the best outcome is Drake Baldwin taking advantage of this opportunity, doing well, but Shawn Murphy coming back. And this time, Murphy coming back with the vengeance, motivated to prove his worth. And then you get that all-star level of Shawn Murphy again. I hope that's the outcome. And I think that there's a good chance it could be.
Yeah. And I'll say this. This is more on the ancillary. This is more on the side, but if the catching situation goes poorly this year, like if Drake, let's just say hypothetically, Drake Baldwin's not ready. He doesn't look good. After about 3 weeks, Shawn Murphy comes back, and let's just say Shawn Murphy doesn't have a good year, and the catching situation is not good in 2025. There's going to be questions as to why the Braves just let Travis d'Arnaud go for $8 million. At the time, you and I sat here and we speculated that they did that because they were going to go out and make a significant contribution to the bullpen after Joe Jimenez got hurt and his $9 million kind of died on the vine. Well, obviously we know now that didn't happen. So it just kind of looks like you just declined d'Arnaud's option just to save the money, which no one is ever happy with, of course. And so if this catching situation goes poorly this year, like that's going to be a thing that gets talked about is like, why did you just let go of a really good, like Travis d'Arnaud was like the third best hitter on the team last year. Why did you let go of a veteran player still good at such a reasonable salary? Like that's going to be a conversation, fair or not. I understand that they wanted Murphy to catch more. They wanted Baldwin to have a shot. Like I understand the logic of why they did it, but if it goes poorly at that position this year, the optics of that don't look good when you didn't use that money anywhere else on the roster. So that is part of this, but I just really want Shawn Murphy to have like a 5-month run of just health, because I think playing every day is going to help him. Like when he came back from the injury last year, he played like 50% of the games. He would play a game and then sit a game, play a game and then sit a game. Well, he was already 2 months behind everybody and he had no chance to catch up because he played on a 50% timeshare. I think this time, if they actually let him catch like 80% of the games and let him get back into a rhythm and play more, I think we're going to see the Shawn Murphy we saw in 2023. And that's what I hope. You're 100% right. The best thing for the Braves is both of these guys look awesome. That's the best thing for the Braves. And then they can figure out whatever they're going to do. But I really want Sean Murphy to have a big 2025. And obviously did not get off to a good start here, but it looks like it's going to be a relatively low impact injury in terms of timeline. It's going to be back in mid-April. I want Sean Murphy to have a monster year.
Well, the other thing that I'll say is that, when we talk about Shawn Murphy, when we talk about Drake Baldwin, what makes the headlines for catchers is their offense, home runs, all that different stuff. But the other side of the equation is the impact Shawn Murphy has handling the pitching staff, helping them excel, and also being able to control the run game of opposing teams. That is probably the one thing that may not be talked about enough, but is going to be the most important thing that Drake Baldwin becomes accustomed to. I believe that it was said he's going to catch tomorrow's game with Chris Sale, making his second spring training start tomorrow. But you've got Drake Baldwin, who's going to start the season as catcher, handling this pitching staff that's got plenty of questions of its own, not necessarily a lot of new faces, but you want them to have a great start to the season. But that, to me, is the other side of the equation. And where you really want Shawn Murphy to come back and be strong is how well he handles a pitching staff and the overall responsibilities of being a catcher. Not saying Drake Baldwin cannot do that, but he's just naturally a less reliable option right now. And so it's just one more question that the Braves have to deal with. I think Drake Baldwin will be fine for 2 to 3 weeks. But I think that side of things makes it even more important to get Shawn Murphy back as healthy and ready to go and productive as possible.
Yeah, the fact that they immediately announced that he's going to catch Sale, I thought was notable. That tells me they're trying to get him ready for opening day, because obviously Sale's going to pitch opening. Knock on every piece of wood, assuming health, Sale's going to pitch opening day. So yeah, that was notable to me that they immediately announced that. The second thing I'll say is this. The pitching staff had this best ERA in baseball last year, and Shawn Murphy does not get any credit for that, even though he should. The pitching staff had the best ERA in baseball. Now, the pitchers should get most of that credit, but the catchers matter there. So you're right. That part of the game never gets talked about because we can't quantify it. We can't qualify. We don't know how to give catchers credit for that. So we don't talk about it a lot. It's just easier to talk about offense. But managers, pitchers will tell you the other side of the ball is more important. It's like shortstop. Defense is more important than offense when it comes to catchers, but we never talk about it. So that's a good point. But yeah, I'm very excited for Drake. I want to see him. I want to see what he looks like. Listen, we talked about this day online. He's 24 years old. We probably need to get this career going. He's not a 21-year-old who we need to worry about service time or stuff like that. He's 24. This is his age 24 season. Born in the same month as Michael Harris, same year. And so I'm excited. I want to see him for 2 or 3 weeks, just see what he looks like. And he's the type of hitter that the Braves could use in their lineup. Contact, doesn't strike out a bunch. So yeah, I'm excited. I want Shawn Murphy to have a good year, but I'm also excited to see Drake Baldwin.
Absolutely. And none of this should quell that excitement. You want to see, especially for a franchise that, yes, we've been lucky to have, Acuna, Riley, so much of our talent that, definitely contributed to our World Series run a few years ago was homegrown, but we don't get it every year. And so it's going to be fun to see Drake Baldwin step up as another prominent, a homegrown prospect, and hopefully he'll make the most of the opportunity. Speaking of making the most of the opportunity, another somewhat notable name was introduced at Braves camp today, not formally, but when I say introduced, meaning that he made he's going to be a part of spring training for the Braves. Hector Neris, an old friend of the team. Of course, my fondest memory of Hector Neris, I believe that it was opening day of 2018 when Nick Markakis hit that 3-run homer on opening day to walk-off home run to hit the ball game. Formerly of the Phillies, formerly of the Astros. Somewhat notable name in that he's been around for a while. He had on paper, on the surface, an excellent 2023. Last year regressed a little bit. He's an arm to me, Stephen, that you might be able to use in a short spurt. If you want to sit here and convince him to potentially be bullpen depth for the organization, that to me is certainly there. But I think that his best days are behind him. Even his really good year in 2023 was a lot of luck. So nothing really to take away from this. To me, this is on the same level as a Buck Farmer. It's yeah, I've heard of this guy before, and I know that he's had a few good years, but this is not in any way, shape, or form a move that makes me think, hey, this guy all of a sudden is going to become a huge part of our bullpen.
Yeah, just another name on the NRI list, just another option. They'll see what he looks like, and if it's not good, they'll cut him. It's a no risk, right? Minor league deal, no guaranteed money. So just another name to throw out. He's 35 or 36, something like that. The fact that he was available on March 3rd and all he could get was a minor league deal kind of tells you where he's been the last couple of years. Strikeouts have gone down, walks have gone up, homers have gone up. None of those are good indicators, of course. So, at that age, he doesn't throw hard. And, he used to throw harder. He throws like 92, 93 now. So, this is just, is there anything left in the tank? Is there any part of the guy that used to be a pretty decent reliever in the majors? Is that guy still in there at all? Or is he just kind of done? And my guess is he's just going to be done, but it's a risk-free move. So that's why they did it.
Yeah, the other notable development from Monday, of course, was that AJ Smith-Shawver made his second start of the season. When it comes to facing off against the Rays, 2 innings pitched, 4 hits, 1 earned run, did have 3 strikeouts. So, kind of a mixed bag of success. I think overall he still looked pretty decent. But I'll kind of make this a twofold, scenario here for you, Stephen. We've seen AJ Smith-Shawver a second time now. We're starting to see, some of these pitchers get their second round through. Spencer Swellenbach was unbelievable. I thought Ronaldo Lopez had a pretty good outing. Sunday was a really fun day to watch the Braves play baseball. But the other news of the day in the majors was that Jose Quintana signed with the Milwaukee Brewers. So as you see more and more of our fifth starter options or our depth options make their, multiple starts, make their second starts or so in spring training, I know we've talked about how much we would like for an arm to come in as a potential starting option. Stephen, the thing that I'll ask is this, though, is that to me, the reason why it makes so much sense is because we've not really seen Alex Anthopoulos make that significant move for a starter at the trade deadline. The really only notable move that he made for a starter in his time as a Braves GM was Kevin Gausman in 2018. And that was before Gausman became like all-star Cy Young level Gausman. So the point that I'm getting at is that I know that it doesn't look like that a starter is going to be added. And I know that the Braves really want to see what they've got with their depth. But they could really use another arm in that starting rotation. And that is the one part of Alex Anthopoulos' track record that is a bit incomplete because we just have not seen a lot of success with it. What are your overall thoughts as you see more and more names come off the board? Andrew Haney, last week, and Jose Quintana this week.
Yeah, listen, I'm surprised. I've said it all offseason. I thought they would add a starter. I thought they would add a reliever. They haven't added either. And I know people are very high on Grant Holmes. I know people still think Ian Anderson has got it somewhere in the tank. AJ Smith-Shawver does have a lot of potential, but you're relying on a lot of stuff that you're not sure about. And, that's assuming Spencer Strider comes back and has no hiccups, he's no ill effects from the surgery, that he just picks up and begins being Spencer Strider again. Because like you said, this is not a team that goes out and really gets starters at the deadline. And one reason is because starters are very, very expensive at the deadline. And for the last 5 years, the Braves have like a bottom 5 farm system. So it's very, very difficult for them to go out and actually competitively go get a starter at the trade deadline. Now they will have potentially Drake Baldwin to dangle, a level of prospect they probably haven't had in a while, not since Michael Harris, and they were never going to trade Michael Harris. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I am very surprised. I thought the Braves would be in on either Haney or Quintana. There's really not much left. Kyle Gibson and Lance Lynn are kind of the only 2 guys that have any sort of experience. Neither had a good year last year. Both are like 37 or 38. So, we're kind of getting down to where it's just, this is the group. And listen, if they're right about Grant Holmes, if they're right about Ian Anderson, then no one cares. No one, you get the credit if you're right. But if you're wrong, and everybody kind of saw this coming, and it goes poorly, Alex is going to get ripped. Payroll didn't go up, it went down. They declined the option on Travis d'Arnaud. They had the money to spend, and they didn't add. And so I hope it goes well. I really do. Obviously, I want Ian Anderson to pitch good. I want Grant Holmes to pitch well. Like I want AJ Smith-Shawver to take a step. That would be huge for this organization if AJ Smith-Shawver could just take a big leap this year. That would solve a lot of problems. But honesty compels me to say I'm very surprised that they never added a starter or a reliever for that matter. I know they've just done this, whole sign 1 million NRIs, sign 1 million guys on minor league deals in the bullpen and just hope a few of them work out. And maybe that works. And again, if it works, no one cares. But I'm concerned about it. I've said before, I'm not that much of a believer in Ian Anderson. We'll see. I could be dead wrong, but I'm definitely concerned about the rotation. I thought the Braves, Quintana signed for like $4 million, 1 year, $4 million. I don't know. That seems pretty reasonable for a guy that can give you pretty solid innings and is a proven major league starter, but obviously they didn't think so. So, they may be right. And if they're right, we'll give them a pat. We'll come on here and tell you, hey, they were right. We were wrong. They were right. And I just hope it doesn't go the other way.
Well, the thing I'll say is this, is that if you are a fan of the Baby Braves, hey, if you remember 20 years ago when the year that Brian McCann and Jeff Francoeur made their, very, very memorable debuts together in the middle of the 2005 season, it basically saved that season. I'm not saying we're going to get that, from the Drake Baldwins and AJ Smith-Shawvers of the world, but it does look like that things are coming together to where some of the more notable younger Braves could have significant roles on this team to start the season. So if you are a fan of that, certainly hope they make the most of their opportunity. My name's Shawn Coleman. You can find me at StatsSEC on Twitter. For Stephen Tolbert, who you can find at _outliers on Twitter /X/ whatever you want to call it nowadays. You can find Hammer Territory across all forms of social media. Foul Territory, part of the Foul Territory family of podcasts here at Hammer Territory. You can find both those great brands across all forms of social media. For Stephen Tolbert, my name's Shawn Coleman. We'll be back with you again. Hey, we're in full mode here to cover the Braves each and every time there's a game /big news /whatever you want to call it. We're here for the constant content and the analysis each and every day. Until next time, go Braves. We'll talk to you again soon here on the Hammer Territory podcast.